All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the final meetup of Data 608. Today, I'll just be going through some summary slides and focus on next subjects to study after this course. So some more advanced packages to research and just sort of reviewing some of the concepts that we've learned throughout the course. Before that, just to reiterate some of the housekeeping that I mentioned in an announcement last week, the final projects have been posted in the content section. So those will have their own assignment module where they will be submitted. And the the presentations rather, are going to be occurring in 2 weeks on occurring 2 weeks from Wednesday. And in that last meetup, I'll post a sign-up sheet for everyone to submit times where they would like to present their final projects. I'll be combining both meetups, so everyone will be getting the same document. Just post whenever you're able to present. And as always happens in these presentation nights, I'll try to stick to it as much as possible, but that'll be sort of a rough guideline of who's going to be submitting. And if you're unable to make the presentation night, please let me know as soon as possible, and we'll work out some alternatives for you to make your presentation. I'm totally fine with sort of recording a presentation and just submitting it on YouTube. Just let me know, and we'll get that taken care of. So with that, I'll just and as ever, if you do have any questions as the course is finishing, just shoot me an email, and we'll get that taken care of. So with that, I'll just go through a few summary slides here and just sort of summarize what we've gone over in the course. So this is reiterating really the common theme that I've really been focusing on in this course, that data visualization is really the intersection between data science and web development. So really, this course is meant to be a survey through different frameworks, and with a lot of these frameworks, especially as we've moved on to Shiny Dash and JavaScript and D3, they're slowly becoming more in the web development world. And they're in a lot of cases they're geared towards data visualization, but it still is helpful to learn all of this with at least some web development context. And really, that was the goal that I really set for myself in this course. And it's currently underrated, I would say, just in the data science field, just in industry. Although as time has gone on, this is really changing. There are many companies now that do have their own data visualization practices in addition to other data science subject matter expertise or data engineers. And then using sort of consulting at IBM as an example, they specifically now divide their data science practices into various complementary skills, data visualization being one of them, but also focusing on things like data engineering or the more modeling aspects of data science. So this is something that really is becoming the trend in the industry, in my opinion. And then to just talk a bit more, thematically about data visualization, at the end of the day, it just comes down to communication. Really, data visualization is about, taking your data, taking any results that you may have out of, any models that you're working on, and communicating them. So, and I also include sort of this latter section about how, mainly this is about sort of a specialist, a practitioner communicating to a non-specialist or a non-practitioner. But really, this is all, you could also see echoes of this anywhere in the data exploration process. If you're communicating between different levels of expertise that I was or classifications that I was talking about in the previous slide, as an example. And then, of course, also given this context, data visualization is changing. When we're looking at web-based data visualization, there's great classical data visualization body of knowledge to work off of, and really the direction of the discussions was meant to really take this classic body and try to see how it's changing with interactivity, to see if any of these principles hold true when looking at web-based visualizations, or if there are any sort of nuanced changes that occur in this new environment. Then, just to speak a bit about the context whenever you're looking at larger projects, really two ways that I kind of look at this question of context is to really ask yourself whether you're looking for sort of a unified, polished experience, looking for something that's a bit more static, a bit more kind of non-reproducible, but more meant to really perform well at the given at its given context, or is it something that's iterative? Are you looking to create a framework that works with multiple types of data sets? You could kind of think of this as really a lot of just sort of standard multidimensional data sets. You are able to sort of have pretty clear sort of rules of thumb in terms of working with them, be it categorical data or numeric data, for example, and more graphically oriented tools like Tableau, as opposed to the tools that we've been working on, really could be thought of as a data product in their own right that is meant to just sort of be open-ended with these data sets, and this exists on a continuum. For our section on big data, once again, the context matters. I wanted everyone to be exposed to Datashader, which works really well, no matter what data set you're giving it. It really just sort of works out of the box in that way. But I also, really made a point to focus on our manual aggregation exercises to sort of really think about what sorts of things you will need to visualize when you're looking at big data, and how much information you could get and how really properly to convey that. And I also, in sort of focusing more on the web development aspect of things, I really also see this as a link between data visualization and data engineering. A lot of what we've been covering, sometimes it just comes down to having proper data engineering practices, and obviously being more geared towards visualization, I've been focusing a lot more on the front end of this, but but just data engineering in general, you could sort of think of as really kind of the hybrid between data science and more traditional software development. And I included a link here for an interesting article written by a practitioner who really explains how data science is evolving in this way, that data science, rather than being seen as a separate field, is really being more conceptualized professionally as different branches of engineering that are working together in the same way. So this is similar thematically to what I was talking about in some previous slides. And then, of course, with all of this, the data visualization tool set is changing. So I have exposed everyone to sort of the cutting edge of the data visualization toolkit as it exists right now. But a lot of this is still changing. And as I go through a couple of the specific tools to kind of keep an eye out for future work as you're studying on your own, the uh, really that'll sort of give you what's kind of what else to research. So in terms of just web development in general, these two libraries, I would say, is a really good kind of entry point for how modern web development is really occurring. Anyone who has any experience in professional web development will know that there's just too many different frameworks and ways of doing web development to list here. These are really just what I would recommend as kind of good first steps if you want to delve deeper into web development. So in particular, Flask. I like combining this with D3 on the front end. If you're able to and I've sort of mentioned this in previous lectures in talking about D3, that D3 really requires it works better if the data is just really in the format that it needs to be in for D3 to create the visualizations, because JavaScript is not really a data science oriented language, and otherwise you're going to be stuck doing really primitive calculations using primitive data types. And so Flask you could sort of use on the back end. And then React is really the current framework that's being used on the front end. It's a modular front end JavaScript library, and and this is actually a really good sort of place to continue from Dash. We and I'm slightly biased, but sort of working with Dash and then really sort of learning a bit about React, you are you're able to see sort of how it works in a Dash context, sort of see the Dash core components really find their analog in React modules. Like React is all about sort of reusable modules. Pretty much everything that's in Dash are just simply open source React libraries, and so this would be sort of some place to go. These are two good places to kind of go for next steps. But as I mentioned, there's just so much available out there in terms of the web development world. So choose your own path in this case. And then for data visualization, first of all, I hope that everyone has, or at least some people in the class have some motivation to continue with D3. It really is a powerful library that lets you, create visualizations without any sort of boundaries. You're not limited by graph type. You could really begin creating your own, your own graph types to fit any sort of custom situation that you may have. So D3 is a really great differentiator out there in terms of other graphing packages out there. There are also other libraries built on top of D3. Vega, Plotly are two examples in JavaScript. And then I'm also mentioning here CrossFilter JS, and I'll go through a few. Just wanted to quickly kind of show what CrossFilter is really all about. At the end of the day, CrossFilter is similar to data frames for JavaScript, but there's just a lot more that it's getting there. It's not as robust as our data frames or pandas, but it definitely allows you to really get the sort of what you would think of as traditional cross filtering. So using this as an example, all of these graphs are able to serve as both outputs and inputs. Some of you in your Dash projects were able to sort of use this style cross filtering by using graph Dash core components themselves as inputs. And this is just the pure JavaScript way of achieving something like this. And then lastly, or not lastly, DC.js, which is a library that's meant to really bridge Crossfilter and D3. So you could sort of think of these three libraries, D3, DC, and Crossfilter, as a pretty decent JavaScript stack for more complex data visualizations. And then I also listed some mapping packages here. So libraries such as Carto, Mapbox, and Leaflet. For some of your final projects, you will be using maps, and these may come in useful for you as you're working on that. I purposefully didn't focus too much on mapping, since that in itself, GIS could fill another course, and it was just simply too much to really devote that much time there. But if you remember, when I was introducing some of the concepts of front end and back end, Leaflet I used as an example of how that could be combined with something like Data Shader. So I've sort of listed these in order of complexity. Leaflet is really the most basic. It's a library that handles tiled maps in general. So with Leaflet, you're able to do things like provide your own what are called tile sets. You could pretty much have any gigantic image, and using that image, create sort of a method to navigate it in a Google Maps style, um, And Mapbox and Carto are a bit more geared towards specific mapping on Earth. Like Leaflet, people use it for viewing viewing space, viewing galaxies and things like that. You're able to really change your tile set there. With Carto and Mapbox, it's a bit more geared towards traditional GIS, and Mapbox is more of a standalone JavaScript library, whereas Carto kind of functions as a full stack. If you use their services, you're able to store data and actually query those data sets using using sort of an API to sort of tie interactivity to the data sitting on Carto. So Carto could kind of serve as your full stack answer for any sort of map making, whereas Mapbox is more of a just really good JavaScript library for Google Map style maps. So with that, in 2 weeks, we'll be presenting our final projects. And thank you everyone for a great semester, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone presents. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. And with that, I'll look forward to those final presentations. Thanks a lot, everyone, and good night.